This is probably my most favorite Sunday of the whole year. It may seem a little strange to you, given that most people would say Christmas or Easter. But when you think about it, Christmas was the day that Jesus was born on earth. And Pentecost is the day the Holy Spirit came to be with us on earth. And although we have all those cute little nativity scenes for Jesus, and we only have the symbols of flame and wind for the Spirit, they are both manifestations of God. Things that we can see and hear that tell us that God is with us. So, why did the Holy Spirit come? And what does the Holy Spirit do? Good questions. Jesus tells us that the Holy Spirit is the Spirit of truth. And the Spirit comes to us to personally tell us the truth. John, the writer of our gospel, calls the Holy Spirit the Advocate. That title gives us some more clues about what the Holy Spirit does. An advocate is a supporter or a defender. When we're having a really hard time, it's really good to have someone who supports us. A supporter tells you the truth about how you're doing. A supporter says things like, that was really good. Your hard work is really paying off and you're really improving. A defender says things like, don't worry that people might laugh at you. You're doing the right thing. I will stand by you no matter what. We all need more supporters and defenders. An advocate also does something like asking God if we can have a second chance to do something. An advocate truly believes in us and knows that we can learn to do things right after we've really messed something up. An advocate prays for us and intercedes for us. Those are all things that the Holy Spirit does. But let's look a little more closely at our gospel. John's writing style is not what we're accustomed to in everyday reading, so it needs a little unpacking. Jesus says that the Spirit proceeds from the Father. This is not to be confused with the theology of our creed. This means something else. The point of what Jesus is saying is that the disciples and all of us need the help of the Spirit as we share the gospel in the world around us. The Spirit will testify, he says, to the truth. The Spirit testifies to Jesus, and Jesus testifies to the disciples. He did that all the time that they were with him. And then we carry the truth forward from generation to generation. We can testify. We give witness. We share this truth because the Spirit was sent to us personally to tell us the truth. In Acts 1:18, Jesus says, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses. The image that immediately came to my mind when I read that was one of being in court on the witness stand, having sworn on the Bible to tell the truth. We live in the court of the world where we are witnesses about the truth of Jesus. And we can only do this with confidence because we have the assurance that the Spirit does not just make things up. The Spirit does not speak on his own. The Spirit speaks exactly what the Creator God has said. And then Jesus tells us that the Spirit will declare to you things that are coming. He's telling us in another way that the truth that the Spirit tells us is from God. There are many verses in the Old Testament, including Isaiah 46:9, which state that only God can declare the future. An example of that is the dream that Joseph had to take Mary and the Christ child to Egypt. God told Joseph that Bethlehem would not be a safe place for them in the future. And Jesus really presses all this home to us as he prepares to leave his disciples. Now, it would be normal and natural for us if we felt we could not possibly understand everything we need to know to share the truth of God fully and correctly. And Jesus assures the disciples that there was more to learn. We're just not able to learn it all at once. That's why the Spirit dwells in us to guide us along the way of the truth, reminding us that Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. We cannot begin to experience or even imagine all that Jesus did in our lives. We have to mature, experience a lot of things, pray, study the scriptures, and as we grow in faith, then we grow in our ability to understand. And then we understand more than we ever did when we were children or when we were new in the faith. Jesus says, I have more to tell you. It's a promise that we will have a deeper and fuller understanding. In fact, some of the things we can't accept at all right now may be a source of real consolation later in our lives. God knows, and always has known, all the truth. We struggle to grasp it bit by bit. But the Spirit is there to give us the precise bit of truth we need at the precise moment we need it. So Jesus says at the end of our reading, the Spirit will glorify me because he will take from what is mine and declare it to you. I don't know about you, but I'm confused by that sentence. So I took it apart. First of all, when we glorify someone, we give them honor or high praise. To glorify also means to worship someone as greater than ourselves. We make clear our praise by doing something that people can hear and see, like clapping our hands or bowing or giving our very best things as a gift. We glorify God when we worship. We kneel, we bow, we give thanks. And also, we glorify God by sharing what we believe with other people and encouraging them to glorify God. So the Spirit glorifies Christ by sharing with us the truth that we in turn share with our neighbors. And it becomes not a burden or a duty, but an honor and a privilege to share our faith. And so this completes a pattern that we've seen over the last 3 weeks. 2 weeks, we talked about being chosen by God and remaining in Jesus. Last week, as Jesus ascended, he told us to go into the world and proclaim the gospel to every creature. Now, Jesus sends us the Spirit from God to enable us to better awaken our neighbors, that they have been chosen too. The Spirit remains with us so that we might grow in awareness of the teachings of Jesus and the fullness of truth in God. May the truth which the Spirit speaks fill you with joy.